Have you ever heard of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands? Chances are you haven't, and that's a shame because these remote places could soon become a new tourist paradise. Yet until recently, they remained largely unknown. For a long period, the Andaman Islands stayed outside the realm of mass tourism, with the Indian government strictly restricting access. Even locals from the mainland could visit only certain parts of the islands with special permits, making travel there quite difficult. The infrastructure was minimal, and reaching the islands posed significant challenges. Why did so few people visit? The primary obstacle was the strict restrictions imposed by authorities. Until quite recently, the Andamans were considered a strategic territory. The Indian government was reluctant to turn them into a resort destination, keeping them off limits even for Indian citizens. Foreign tourists faced an even steeper barrier due to complicated visa processes, infrequent flights, and high costs. Furthermore, many indigenous tribes still lived in complete isolation, with the government aiming to preserve their separation from external influences. This combination of factors created an image of the islands as mysterious, yet largely inaccessible. Could the Andaman Islands ever replicate Dubai's transformation? It's hard to believe, but consider in the 1970s, Dubai was nothing more than deserts dotted with fishing villages. Yet today, it's among the world's most expensive and luxurious cities. The rapid growth was driven by bold investments, ambitious development projects, and modern infrastructure. India is now following a similar trajectory, allocating massive budgets to build airports, luxury hotels, and modern amenities from scratch. If this plan succeeds, the Andamans could become India's own version of Dubai, a high-end resort attracting the wealthiest travelers. Previously, the islands drew no more than 10,000 visitors annually, roughly the number that attend a single football match. Mostly adventure seekers unbothered by difficult and costly journeys. In contrast, destinations like Goa or Bali welcome millions each year, around 8 million in Goa and over 16 million on Bali. Now, with new airports and upscale hotels, the tourist influx could increase hundreds of times. But if this development offers such vast potential, why did the islands remain hidden for so long? Unlike Goa or Bali, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands were not popular among travelers, known mainly to seafarers, military personnel, and researchers. Back in the 16th century, Portuguese explorers visited the islands during their voyages, but quickly realized they were unsuitable for colonization. Dense jungles, hostile tribes, and disease made settlement impossible. Instead, the Portuguese used them as waypoint bases for trade. The British, however, took a different approach. In the 19th century, they established prisons here, turning the islands into a remote detention site where escape was nearly impossible because of the surrounding ocean. Later, the islands gained military importance, but for ordinary people, the islands remained largely unknown. During the Second World War, they briefly fell under Japanese control, further adding to their obscure history. In 1942, Japanese forces occupied the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, establishing military bases and using them as strategic outposts in the Indian Ocean. This was one of the few regions under Indian control that experienced Japanese occupation during the war. The occupation lasted until 1945, when hostilities ceased, but remnants of that era still remain. Some old military fortifications can still be seen today, standing as silent witnesses to a turbulent past. Following India's independence in 1947, the islands fell into relative obscurity, remaining on the periphery of national development. Transportation was limited, tourism was virtually non-existent, and local life persisted unchanged for over a century. The idea of developing tourism in the Andamans emerged in the mid-20th century, but progress faced numerous hurdles. Poor infrastructure, shortages of water and electricity, along with strict regulations deterred investment. Travelers avoided destinations with unpaved roads, and major companies hesitated to risk funding projects. As a result, the islands remained largely unexplored for several more decades. So why did India suddenly decide to transform these neglected islands into world-class resorts? The Andaman and Nicobar archipelago comprises more than 500 islands scattered across the Bay of Bengal. While geographically closer to Thailand and Myanmar, these islands officially belong to India. Most of the archipelago is covered with dense jungle, and some islands remain completely uninhabited even today. The natural beauty is extraordinary. Pristine white beaches, crystal clear waters, coral reefs, and volcanic landscapes. These islands are among the best worldwide for diving, where visitors can spot rare coral species, turtles, and even sunken ships. Nearly 85% of the territory is designated protected area, where construction is strictly prohibited. The islands host unique wildlife, endemic Andaman wild pigs, rare leatherback turtles, and enormous saltwater crocodiles that cannot be found elsewhere. Along the coast, coral reefs guard the shores, remaining among the least disturbed in the world. However, developing new resorts poses risks to this delicate ecosystem. The islands sit within a highly seismic zone. In 2004, a powerful earthquake triggered a tsunami in the Indian Ocean, devastating villages and reshaping coastlines. Waves soared up to 15 meters, making it one of history's most destructive tsunamis. Although current efforts include building protective barriers, the threat of earthquakes persists. The Andaman Islands lie within a tropical climate, but conditions vary seasonally. From November to April, the weather is dry and warm, ideal for travel. Conversely, May through October brings heavy rains, possible hurricanes and storms, which often disrupt ferry services and make beaches unsafe for swimming. Yet, the most compelling aspect of these islands is not just their breathtaking scenery or climate, but the people who inhabit them. Some islands are home to tribes that have never encountered modern civilization. They remain isolated, unaware of telephones, vehicles, or electricity, living in harmony with an untouched environment. The Indian government has officially prohibited approaching the sentinels, recognizing that even common illnesses like colds can prove fatal to them. Residing on a remote northern island, this mysterious tribe remains one of the most elusive groups on Earth, resolutely refusing contact with outsiders and reacting violently when approached. Any intruder on their island risks being attacked with bows and spears, a threat underscored when in 2006 they killed fishermen who inadvertently came too close. In 2018, an American missionary attempting to establish communication was killed under similar circumstances. Researchers believe the sentinels have been in isolation for roughly 1,000 years, making them among the least studied populations worldwide. The Indian authorities have formally barred access to the sentinels and other indigenous communities within the archipelago, primarily to safeguard their existence. These tribes lack immunity to modern diseases, and even an ordinary flu could be deadly. Maintaining their traditional way of life without interference is also deemed essential, prompting restrictions even on government and scientific expeditions to certain islands. Historically, most of these remote islands had no established roads, hospitals, or reliable electricity. The only accessible routes to these distant places are boats, which during the rainy season become unusable. Though internet connectivity has recently been introduced in some areas, coverage remains sporadic. Without basic infrastructure, developing tourism was impossible, and few would want to visit a place without hospitals or proper transport. For a long time, India kept the archipelago closed to visitors to preserve its pristine environment and protect its indigenous peoples. However, these prohibitions have begun to lift as the country reconsiders its approach. Now, India plans to transform these wild landscapes into exclusive resorts, but uniquely without foreign investment, unlike typical tourist destinations controlled by international corporations. Instead, the development is funded solely by Indian capital, signaling a desire to keep this paradise within national hands. The government has embarked on an ambitious strategy to develop the archipelago, pouring billions of dollars into its infrastructure. Major efforts include constructing new roads linking key islands, previously deemed impossible, and expanding the port in the largest town, Bleary, with an upgraded airport capable of handling international flights. A deep-water port project is also underway, intended to facilitate cruise ships, similar to facilities found in the Maldives. Additionally, numerous new medical centers and schools are being built to improve local residents' quality of life. Tourist infrastructure is expanding rapidly. Dozens of hotels, restaurants, and entertainment centers are rising to accommodate visitors. Unlike popular destinations such as Bali or the Maldives, India insists that the development of the Andaman Islands remains solely under national control, deliberately excluding foreign corporations from entering the market. This approach aims to preserve sovereignty, prevent land resale, and ensure the project aligns with broader national policies. India aims to develop a luxury resort primarily for its own citizens, rather than catering to foreign investors. Despite stringent regulations, the first high-end resorts have already begun to emerge on the islands, signaling initial steps toward this goal. At the same time, a network of budget hotels is expanding, designed to attract a broader spectrum of travelers, both affluent tourists and budget-conscious explorers. Over the coming years, the total number of accommodations is expected to multiply, though questions remain about whether ordinary travelers will have access or if the destination will become a secluded, exclusive enclave for the elite. The cost of land on the Andaman Islands is a crucial factor in this development. In popular tourist regions such as Dubai, Bali, or the Maldives, property prices have skyrocketed following their rise in popularity. For example, oceanfront plots in Goa start at around $200,000, in Bali from $300,000, while in Dubai, land costs can reach several $1,000,000. By comparison, land on the Andaman Islands remains relatively affordable with prices starting near $50,000. Yet, purchasing it is virtually impossible due to strict legal restrictions. Indian law prohibits foreigners from owning property in these territories, a restriction that even wealthy Europeans or Arab sheikhs cannot bypass. For Indian citizens, acquiring land here also presents significant challenges, as only authorities and select entities are authorized to buy or sell parcels or develop hotels. While these legal barriers limit free market activity, some foreign investments have slipped through, such as a few international hotel chains establishing branches through partnerships with Indian firms. However, such instances are rare, reflecting the government's cautious stance toward foreign business involvement. all property transactions are tightly regulated, with the government overseeing deals and maintaining extensive land reserves under state control. Unlike in other resort hotspots, buying land for quick resale or development is nearly impossible, which hampers rapid market growth. Environmental considerations are also a major concern. Constructing roads, hotels, and resorts often necessitates deforestation and habitat destruction, threatening the island's pristine ecology, which is among its main attractions. The influx of mass tourism, as seen on Bali and the Maldives, has led to beach pollution and coral reef degradation, raising fears that similar ecological damage could occur on the Andaman Islands. Rapid development might threaten the unique ecosystems and the rare species that inhabit these areas, risking the loss of their natural charm. Moreover, the uncertain success of this development project weighs heavily. It remains unclear whether the islands will attain the same popularity as Goa or Bali, or if this vision is merely an idealistic dream. Some experts believe the Andaman Islands could mirror the Maldives' success, provided there's a more open approach to business and international investment. Others argue that the strict legal restrictions and limited access will prolong development, limiting the island's growth potential. Currently, the absence of major international brands hampers efforts to attract global tourism, raising doubts about the future of this venture. Ultimately, whether this resort will become a thriving success remains uncertain. The outcome hinges on factors that are still very much in the realm of speculation, and only time will reveal if these islands can strike a balance between ecological preservation, legal constraints, and economic vitality. Once upon a time, other popular resorts also began from humble beginnings. In the 1970s, the Maldives consisted solely of a chain of uninhabited islands lacking even an airport. Today, it ranks among the world's most sought-after travel destinations. Similarly, Dubai was once just a barren desert city before transforming into a symbol of luxury and wealth. The key difference lies in their approach. Both actively attracted foreign investments fueling rapid development. In contrast, the Andaman Islands are developing solely through Indian efforts, implying a potentially slower growth rate. This makes it more challenging for international tourists to discover this remote region. Whether the Andaman Islands can become the next Bali or Maldives depends entirely on India's willingness to open the area for mass tourism. If strict policies persist, only affluent Indians will visit, leaving foreigners unable to enjoy the island's natural beauty. What future awaits these islands? Will they achieve spectacular success or remain another ambitious project destined to be forgotten?